Evening all, welcome to Fitting Dust, and today what we're going to do is we're going to discuss, I think, something quite interesting to do with the channel at the moment, which is the prevalence and the domination of tablet games and iPhone games, etc. I think there's a real kind of interesting scenario developing here, and let me kind of try and quantify it. So let me start with an opening statement. Basically, it would appear that the vast majority of true talent with a gaming development degree in education are leaving universities and basically going and creating or working for the iPad and iPhone and kind of, I don't know what they call them, Android and iOS games developers like PopCap and others, because it does seem to me to be where the money is. Let's look at this. So a AAA production title will cost you anywhere between $500,000 to a good 3 or 4 million to produce, which you think about it is not too far away from an independent film. Some games even cost more. I mean, Destiny costs $500 million, but I'm still waiting to see where that $500 million has gone. I suspect it's being shipped out of the country and it's now sat nice and snug in a Swiss bank account, but hey, what do I know? I think at the moment, really, gaming is something that has very, very different budgets. It's very much like the independent movie scene right now. So you can create a Minecraft for probably a couple of $100,000, really, probably even less. But either way, you're going to produce a game that could go on to make huge amounts of money. And this certainly seems to be where the talent is going. And I'll tell you this because we have been playing, Trouble and I, we've been playing an awful lot of iPad games, and even stuff that's like an MMO iPad game, which is weird because it actually rewards you not to play it. So it's a bit like the Eve model, if that makes any sense. It's seriously, we have this one game, which I won't mention because I'm sure you'll all just goon rush me and destroy me, but what it is you have to build a base, you have to then defend it, and you can kind of attack and defend other people, and it's all done completely while you're offline, so it doesn't even require you to be playing the game. Now, it sounds crap. It, in theory, should be crap. But I tell you what, it's done beautifully. And I think it really is. I mean, this is why I kind of mention it. And I think people will maybe turn their nose up and snort derision at the fact that people will play iPad games, etc. But I think the reality is that actually this seems to be where much of the innovation is coming from nowadays. And I think when you look at certainly the cleverness of some of these games, and you have games, some of them are like Angry Birds and that kind of thing, Cut the Rope, etc., that do require you to be online, but they're time passing games. You play them to pass the time. Then you have like base building and I guess resource RTS style games which don't require you to be online. In fact, they kind of actively encourage you not to be, because when you're online you can't be attacked, therefore your defenses won't work, etc. So it's a bit odd, but it kind of makes sense, because when you pick up your iPad and you kind of think, I'll just check my mail, and you pick up your iPad and you'll be like, I've been attacked, and you'll go and you can actually watch the replay of all the attacks. And I'm like, wow, that's clever. And I think this in a very long introductory kind of way is my thesis that says, really what I would expect CCP to be doing now is looking objectively at iPad companion apps. Or some form. I mean, again, I am not going to start the whole debate of Android versus iOS. I don't care. I really don't care. At the end of the day, you've got a tablet, you enjoy it, that's all that matters. I'm not loyal to one console or another. I'm not loyal to one processor type. I'm not loyal to one graphics card manufacturer. This is the irony that I think a lot of people assume that I have, is that I'm kind of, I fly my flag and that's it. No, I don't care. As long as I'm being entertained, I in fact would rather have more competition than there is currently now. And I think this is why, you should, who cares if it's on iPad or Android? I don't care. I really don't care. And I think when you look at the depth and breadth and quality of the games coming out now for just your tablets and whatever they are, I think you can't really, expect a big AAA games developer to ignore that. And I think CCP have this kind of, desire to be taken seriously, quote, as a, prominent games producer making hard games for, all this and that. And I think while they're kind of cross-platform I guess, experience to date has been disastrous. I think the reality is that really they should give it another go, and what they should do is start to build maybe mini games for iPads. And I'll tell you why, because there's a really nice sort of thing coming through with Elite Dangerous here, which is you have the ability to have apps. Now these are currently not supported apps. These are literally, some guy in his bedroom has created this, and he's plugged it into 2 cheap tablets, and what they effectively do is they're just sat on the side next to his joystick, and he then presses, and these apps just run buttons that activate things in in Elite, so he can like lower his landing. It's just brilliant, and they're tablets, and I think that's an absolute genius stroke. And you just set them up as peripherals so that they know that there's an area there, and if it's pressed that means E, and then E activates your lights or whatever it is. I mean, it's brilliant. And I think that is something surely that would benefit Eve. That would be something surely that would benefit Dust. I mean, you know, you could have a fitting app for Dust. I mean, I know, I'm sure it's a nightmare to do, and I'm sure the legalities of it are a nightmare, but maybe for Legion, maybe Legion would have some kind of iOS Android app that enables you to, you know, prepare your fits, to check out your current, I don't know, population, your planetary conquest zones, your ISK, whatever it is. And I'll tell you why, because there's a lot of Eve companions. Over the years, there's been loads of Eve companions. And these are just third-party bits of software that some very clever people have created. I think most of them are free. Some of them you probably do buy if you want, but it's up to you. And some of them are very good. And I actually used a few of them myself for a while when I actually played this game. And it was kind of cool. You know, I was very impressed with it. I thought they did a great job. And I think, you know, you can't go too wrong with these kind of things. So I don't know if there ever was anything for Dust. I mean, it'd be nice to think there was, but I suspect probably not. But what I would love to have had, you know, more kind of clarity on is that CCP themselves link their own apps into this. So maybe you could have some form of link between all of them. So you could have your single console that then shows your Dust characters, current status. It shows your Eve character status, and it shows your Valkyrie pilot status. Now we know this is something they're looking at doing because of the FanFest stuff, but you know, one of the biggest problems that I think they have at the moment is there's no like drawback from an Eve player not having a Dust account. Now obviously that will become Legion, so therefore there's a technology barrier that's been reduced, but what you could have in theory is a dashboard that has the 3 slots. And as long as you don't have a Dust character, then there's a whole part of your dashboard that's missing, and that's called the missing button way of marketing, and that's how you get people to buy big expensive cars with all the add-ons, because you show them that there's a great big slot where the switch would be for something nice, and that, I mean, it's a brilliant trick, but that's certainly what CCP could do. I would love to have seen that done more. It does seem like they missed a trick entirely with this kind of thing, because it's not the hardest thing to do, and it's almost disappointing that there wasn't this immediate push to try and force every Eve pilot to get a Dust account. Yes, there was a technology barrier, but I still think the vast majority of Eve players, if they could have been persuaded to come and play this game, I think this game would have been a lot more successful than it was. It's frustrating as hell to me to think that just was not a primary consideration. I suspect that it probably shows infighting within CCP that they could not force the 2 teams to enable that as a requirement. And it goes the other way. So obviously Dust players would then have a gap showing their Eve character, so that then forces them to want an Eve character. It's such a simple premise, but again, I'm sure they thought of it, and I'm sure there's a reason why they didn't do it. But either way, what's disappointing, I think, is the fact that it was just another missed target. It was another little trick that they should have known about. David Reed, the CMO, is a chief marketing officer. He can't be a complete knob when it comes to marketing. He must know his trade. Yet it does seem that there was almost zero marketing done of this game under his watch. And it's almost kind of unusual to think that a senior chief board member would not have any desire to market any of their products, let's face it. When you think about when Eve first started, you saw them advertised everywhere. The Escapist, you saw them advertised on Sci-Fi Channel. You saw Eve adverts pretty much in every gaming website you went to. You still see some of them, but it's only when they've only got kind of like a little campaign going on. It does feel odd that they have all of a sudden just drawn back on their advertising. And I will tell you for now, if you went to any of the kind of main shooter websites, you would never see a Dust 514 advert, which I think is absolutely negligent in a way. Why on earth they didn't advertise this game, I couldn't say. It's a good game. The core of it is actually quite fun. But it's gone too far now. There are too many veterans. There are not enough new players to balance it out. This game has become niche. It's become basically an equivalent of Battlefield 2142 as it is today, which is there's only really the experts playing it still, so I'm told. So I think really it's kind of sad. And I think really the biggest, I guess, culpable party here is, again, CCP. They seem to just show very little desire to grow their business. It does feel almost as if maybe they're just growing it in China. Maybe they're just growing certain areas. Who knows? But at the moment, it's very difficult to see what it is in terms of a strategy that CCP have. And I've been saying that for almost a year and a half now, which is kind of crazy when you think about it. I mean, that's just culpable. I mean, that's crazy. I think the problem also stems from the fact that there just is not very good communications. There's a little bit of I guess, anger being shown from CCP towards their player base now, which is just unprofessional. You are always going to have a problem when you have a product, because people will be critical of you. And when people are critical of you, you have to basically either do two things. You either say nothing and just accept that people are going to be critical, or you reply and you be professional. You never take the piss. You never berate. You never down talk a customer, ever, because that's just the most unprofessional thing to do. And that's kind of what a market trader who's basically a dodgy geezer will do, or a cowboy builder. CCP's customer relationship is very similar to that of a cowboy builder. They would just sit there when basically pointed out how terrible they are at certain things, and they'll just say no, we're not, and they'll kind of get angry, and they'll try and troll their customers. And I think that's just kind of sad, because the reality is that really is not what they should be doing. Stems from the fact that too many of CCP have come from the player base. Too many of CCP are just ex-CPM wannabes. They just literally recruit from inside their own business. And I think it's an absolute shambles that's going on. And I think it's almost kind of unbelievable that even in this day and age, they have this kind of level of, I guess, just desire not to say anything. Look at Legion, look at their promises made. I mean, actual promises made that they're going to talk to the community. After that, balls up at FanFest, the given promise that there would be a constant and reliable stream of communication and feedback, and it's gone nowhere. That is not professional. That is not the sign of a professional company. That's not the sign of professional people. That is the sign of cowboys and chancers. There we go. Hope you enjoyed that. Big smiley face.